I've just been busy, just like you and everybody else, like just dump information into the collective consciousness so we can catch up on things, like let's catch up with this lost history, the story of our world. My goodness, there's so much. Atlantis, people talking about it,
Atlantis is, it's almost a buzzword at the moment, isn't it? I mean, people...
Yeah, I mean, it's hot topic.
Yeah, a lot of people, I think, have got onto, understanding these topics, I guess. A lot faster than I thought. People are ready to sort of talk on a higher level, aren't they? Which is good. Because a lot of the time you sort of got to put information...
Quickening right now.
Yeah, that people can relate to.
It's so amazing. Like just in everyday life, you start talking to people and they're awake on different levels, maybe not to the level of the elves and Midgard and all this stuff, but tell you we're catching up very rapidly now. So maybe there's something to the prophecy of 2030 of, all roads of truth lead to that truth singularity moment where they can't like collapse timelines and redirect time and do all this other stuff. Mandela effect was absolutely real. I experienced it, and I don't know if you had, but I have the book about the Berenstain Bears. I grew up reading all those books about Berenstain Bears, and now it's Berenstain, and I'm like, wait a minute, no,
there's no way.
That's what I remember,
There's no way. And
just different weird stuff.
C-3PO from Star Wars. I mean, I don't know if you've seen that, but he's now got a silver leg.
Yeah.
Like the silver leg. And
silver leg?
Yeah.
Yes.
I know someone who's got an original 1977 figurine and it's all gold, no silver leg. So, I mean, yes. So, yeah. I mean, obviously you're into the, the Dark Elves and Idris and all this. So what have you been looking into lately? Like, where's your research taken you?
Oh, listen, let me tell you. Yeah, well, here's something for people to chew on. They're put in our face, as always, about who we are.
I only just sort of made the connection between elf and Elohim, like the L, right? L. Yeah, L's in everything. Yeah. Vowel is a vow to L, like the vowels.
Yeah, the vowel. Yeah, so elite, Elohim, L. This whole notion of L, L is Saturn, right? Electricity.
Oh, yeah.
And 11.
Yep.
And Elvin and, elf. All these things, that's a reference to Saturn. That was Saturn's name in ancient times. Saturn was known as El. And El is like the father of time, enlightening. And I'm not sure if people truly think, do people really comprehend on your channel like the deeper meaning of what Saturn truly represents? Because what I've learned about Saturn, so that I've been exploring encompassing many things to try to figure out like where everything comes from. So etymology of words is something to look at, look at etymology, where words come from. And Jordan Maxwell was a heavily influencer in my life about researching symbology of things. So I came across him some years ago, and I listened to every video that I would come across. And this whole notion of Saturn is actually spoken about with Plato and Ptolemy, Pythagoras, all of these true philosophers of the ancient times.
Oh, yeah.
And they all had to say that L encompasses everything. It's considered the black sun, the sun that we don't really see. It's like the shadow side of our sun. It's all about like the philosophers of the golden age in the last ancient times that we had in probably the age of Aries or Taurus, somewhere around there. They talked about L, and L was all encompassing. L is everything here, and they have concentric rings where they show the Earth is in the center, and then L encompasses all the different rings, the moon, the sun, the Venus, Jupiter, all the planets basically. But L, Saturn is the biggest, And I mean, I have a diagram I can pull up too, if you want to see. I mean,
yeah, sure. I was just also thinking, Saturn, where we get the word saturate, because it's everywhere. And of course, L is like all.
L is Lord of the Rings.
Ah, yes, no.
And I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's look at this for a second, because this is what the philosophers, this is how they saw the influences of our world. Because as you get into astrology and things, it starts to make more sense when you think of it in terms of energy. And this Earth is in the center, which is like the material plane. And as a spirit, if you think about, if you have the fire inside of you, that is a spirit, and it is a light that we cannot see. The outermost ring is Saturn. And Saturn rules them all. One ring, to bind them, whatever that is in the Lord of the Rings, is like one ring to rule them all, and in the darkness bind them. That's what this is about. And, those people, they really weren't ignorant of our world. I would say that they were quite adept at the knowledge, because look at Egypt. I mean, look at the pyramids, look at all the technologies. We've lost all the knowledge. It's been, suppressed and hidden. And so that's why I say that these people are very intelligent. And so for myself, I've even gone in that direction to try to see what they had to say about our world. And it is a fascinating journey, and I do encourage more people to kind of look into these kinds of things so that we can get back to this knowing of what is this experience about. And
yes,
what we've been missing is the divine aspect that's inside each of us, with the spirit, and being connected to nature. But somehow when the material world, we don't see ourselves as part of nature, because we are born in a world that is consumed by material things and material goods, and go to work and get up in the next day, do it again, all this stuff. It's like a system of control.
Yeah, possessed.
It's held us in darkness. So
possessed by possessions.
And yes, but when you look at it from the spiritual aspect, if you've ever looked at an astrotheology chart, have you ever looked at one very close?
No,
at all?
I'm not good with astrology.
You know what? I didn't know anything until I actually started, kind of questioning things. I'm like, okay, what does this mean exactly? How does astrology and someone else who wrote the playbook about our signs, the sun sign that we're born in, supposedly in our month, and they can absolutely know our personality. How is it that someone from the past actually knows something about our personality? Well, in astrotheology, that is actually the science of the spirit as connected to the stars. And when you look at it, you're like, what? And then you go, wow. So it's all based in symbolism. Again, symbolism used to be a very prominent language in our world.
Yeah, I mean, all the buildings were covered in it.
Oh, yeah. So this is considered an astrotheology chart.
Okay.
And in this chart, it shows everything. If you know how to read the symbols, because this, I believe me, I looked at this for the first time and I'm like, what is this? I don't know what this is like speaking another language. So when you get into the symbols though, and you get into the energy of what each symbol represents based on the zodiac, you can then start reading this like a book, and you're like, oh my gosh. So in Pisces, so here we are, like we're supposed to be right here on the cusp between two ages. Now, this is a Western astrotheology chart, and we're going to get into the elves in just a minute. But in the Western astrotheology, it's very different from the Eastern tradition with the Vedics and what they have to say about our world and the astrotheology. But I can only read this one because I'm obviously over here in the Western world. But as you can see, what we have here, this is symbolic of, I believe, Jupiter. It's like 21. It looks like a 4, and it also looks like a 21. This is a symbol for Saturn right here. This kind of H. It's the top is over here, and it has a straight line, and then it has like a little lash that comes out. But this is Saturn, and Saturn rules Aquarius. Very interesting knowledge because of all of the Saturn symbolism that is everywhere around the world. And that gets into Cult of the Black Cube, the death cult of Saturn, the skull and bones, all of this stuff that's kind of tied into the death and the underworld and that kind of stuff. So, but looking backwards, because this is considered the great year, as you progress through each of these ages, what they call ages, we are leaving the age of Pisces, and each age represents 2,150 years, approximately. And it's based on the constellations in the night sky and which constellation is in the eastern sky on the spring equinox of the given year. Like if we're going into 2023, whatever date the spring equinox falls on, which is sometime in March, I believe. It's either March or April. I think it's March. I think it's about the 20th or 22nd. I can't remember exactly the date. Yeah. But in that direction, there will be a constellation. And it will be, that determines what age we're going into. And that's how you determine it. And I was like, okay, that's interesting, because I never knew. I never knew any of this stuff. So
yeah, I didn't know that either. That's interesting. And I didn't know that because everyone talks about Aquarius, but you just said it's ruled by Saturn. So clearly we're told, all this esoteric kind of information all points to Saturn being bad. And Aquarius, we all think is supposed to be good, and it's ruled by Saturn. So yeah, what are your thoughts there?
This is a deep rabbit hole. Saturn is a deep hole, very deep. But once you dive in, you start to comprehend more of what you see around you and all the symbolism that's related to it. Now, since Saturn represents the black sun, in the Platonic solids, Plato's Platonic solids of the elements, it actually is considered a black cube because it is the shadow aspect of our world. It is part of this whole yin yang that you see in the middle. This yin yang right here is light and dark. This is the duality that we see in the world. We see light, we see dark, we see cold, we see hot. We experience all this, this idea of duality. And based in this duality, if you learn the yin and yang principles, you can find the solutions to absolutely every problem. And it is no less than amazing. I dove into the 4 elements, and it blew my mind open. I was like, okay, because it's not the chemistry elements that they teach us in school. If you go into the alchemy of the 4 elements, air, earth, fire, and water, and plus the ether principle, which is spirit, then you start to comprehend what all of this stuff means and how everything connects into one. And that's the most fascinating journey, because all of this, you cannot have misinformation from the stars. The stars do not lie. Nature does not lie, but people do. And as they write books, they can overwrite, foundational knowledge, which is what we've sort of seen in our recent past. So getting back, I have to show you this real quick. I want you to see something here. This is the symbol for Pisces, this little thing right here. It's also the logo for the Hilton Hotel.
Yeah, right.
See, that it just tells you they know something about something, right?
Also, side, it looks like the standing man. That plasma symbol that you see. Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah. Well, I've seen that. And look, so it actually stands up this way. The Pisces is represented by 2 fish, and the 2 fish are equivalent to the 2 feet. This is how it relates to the body. So as above, so below. And when we go into Aquarius, what are we learning about right now? This is supposed to be a symbol for water, right? But Aquarius is actually an air sign.
It is.
And this symbol right here is frequencies, sine waves. So like, oh, wow, look at this. And we're learning about sine waves in Aquarius. You know, I'm like, okay, this is getting interesting. Now, Aquarius is, it equates to, in the body, the physical body, it equates to the shins, from the ankles to just below the knee. And then as you go around, it goes all the way up to Aries, which is fire principle. This is fire right here in the 4 elements. Now, these symbols along in this inner ring, these are platonic solids and sound frequencies.
Yes. Yeah.
So all of this ties in. I'm serious. Once you learn all this symbolism, it's like, whoa, wow. You know, it becomes alive to you. And you're like, oh my gosh, I can start reading this like a book. Like Gemini, for example, when you learn about the golden age, which is right here with the gold spring, you know, it's got the gold spring of mankind, basically, because it's the gold spring of consciousness. And we're up here in the head with the crown chakra being up here in Aries, the height of consciousness right here. But it began with Gemini. And what do we see over here? This is the symbol for Gemini. It's like 2 equal signs. It means balance. It means everything in balance, everything in harmony, everything perfected, a perfected being, perfected life, perfected world. Then, you know, that's the golden age. And then in Taurus, you see this little light point right here? This little highlighted area in the gold.
Yep.
When I was looking at this, I was like, that's when all of the fall of man's consciousness actually started. If this represents 2,150 years right here, 2,150, that means just a little bit past halfway, potentially. I mean, this is how I read it anyway. Anybody can come up with something. That this started diving. They started diving down in consciousness because, like I said, symbolism is very important. And what we have here, a circle in itself, by itself, represents wholeness, completion, unity. There's no ending, no beginning, right? But what do we see here? We have 2 spikes coming out of the circle, 2 ideas, two trains of thought possibly coming. This is supposed to be polarity. This is supposed to be a bull.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yes, this is supposed to be the head of a bull. Now, what do we know about the Canaanites? We know that they began sacrificing to Baal, the bull god.
Yeah.
Baal was Horus. Now you have the worship of the golden calf because gold represents the sun. You know, this is interesting. So this is the symbol right here, this little circle with a dot in the middle.
Yep.
Over here in this represents the sun. And this is also the alchemical symbol for gold.
The gold.
Very interesting knowledge. Yes.
There's a gold.
So I'm telling you, once I teach you all this stuff, you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, your mind's gonna be blown when you go, oh my. When you go look at those old maps, Mercator's map and stuff, and you see that Mount Sumeru's in the middle, where it looks kind of like the game Simon, where you have the 4 islands and then Mount Sumeru in the very middle, and then you have like the 4 cardinal directions. It looks just like this symbol of gold and the Coptic crosses that are out there in the world.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And
I mean,
theological sort of cross, isn't it, that they use, which is for the ages.
Yeah, I'm
also reading the little bits, like
there's a lot of,
but the child, I think, so we're starting to think, then it's the baby I have, like it's, I guess, becoming and embodying that. And then after the fall, it's like the infant. So that's where you can start being like, yes, I am, you know, the then I guess the ego takes over and someone goes, no, yeah, this is what you are. And they start telling you what you are and you believe it. And that's the fall.
Well,
I don't know. That's how I'm reading it.
yes. So the fall of man. Exactly. So the fall of man from the high estate of consciousness back down to the feet means they were fighting and warring, and materialism came about and became the ruler of everything. And, subsequently they relegioned the minds of people into a belief. That's why it says, I believe. And now we're going into I know, because we're going to know the truth of what happened after the fall of man right here. Yeah, this is a timeline, and it's a clock of symbols, and it tells a story right here in this symbol for Aries. So this is supposed to be the ram over here in Aries. This, to me, looked like a fountain.
Yeah.
Even though it's supposed to be ram's horn, it looked like a fountain. And I said, you know what? It's a fountain of two different streams of knowledge, or two lines of thought. And one was, getting back to the old world. And then there was this progression into the world that we know. So, it could be the duality aspect again, yin and yang. This division, regardless. And ram's horn. So what I learned about spiraling energy, do you know about counterclockwise and clockwise motion? About what it represents?
A little, but not a lot.
Yeah, so I have a friend who spent time with Lakota natives, Native Americans. And he told me one time, he's like, but counterclockwise energy pushes out that energy. If you have something that's either rotating in a counterclockwise manner, or even just drawing a line counterclockwise, will actually push out energy. But the clockwise motion brings in energy. And I thought about that, and I was like, well, that's interesting, because the clocks bring in time. As it goes around clockwise, it's actually bringing in time. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. So when I thought about the ram's horns, if you think about a ram's horn, they're both going in two different directions, because one's going clockwise and one's going counterclockwise. So I was like, oh, wow, that's kind of something to think about. I mean, this is how deep my mind goes. I'm like, oh. But if you notice, let me zoom out a little bit so you can see this. See the Ouroboros from Yggdrasil?
Yep.
Yes, right here. Little snakehead guy.
Yep.
Eating his tail. And I'm not sure if even the placement of the head and tail matter here. And maybe it does. I'm not sure, but he swallows his tail, I guess, and it just recycles around and around and around. It's representative of the recycle program. I've learned.
Gosh.
Yeah, that this whole reality is based as a school. If you get into spiritual aspects and you study spiritual things, you just learn that this is all experiential as a school, because science has already determined that we're in some sort of hologram, holographic universe. I mean, fascinating information. But this is actually important, because we can actually learn some things about ourselves just looking at something like this, and learning all the different traits. So somebody in time wrote the playbook of who we are in the past, based on these celestial signs in the heaven. Now, one thing to note is that the Egyptians had different constellations, and so it's going to be different for each faction, each culture around the world.
I've often wondered that the different cultures call them different things, but other aspects the same.
Yeah, this one's just more modern. It's updated for our timeline, I guess.
And what are all the chemicals? Around, we've got the calcium and magnesium and potassium, and are they?
Yeah. So, oh wow, listen, this matters too. So, based on this, I have books that are for your health, say, and the 12 cell salts that are actually needed our bodies to operate properly.
Okay.
Yeah. Our cellular structure is based in crystalline structures of salt, various ones, and whichever one is here, and if you're a Pisces, say, then this is going to be the one you need the most. I just made a video about this kind of thing.
I mean, yeah,
talking about the 12 salts.
They're literally the 12 salts around the outside, so one for each.
Yes, these are all salts. Yes, I mean, like minus sea salt, minus sodium chloride, minus sea salt, but you can find out based on, your sun sign which one you need the most, but you need all 12 of these.
Yeah, okay. Is there one that's more beneficial though for each?
Yeah.
Like there's one that you should probably consume more than the other 12, but we need all.
Yes. You need all 12 of these for your cells to function, because if we live in an electric universe, we need to amplify the crystalline body, physical body. And what do they promote out here, in society? Sugar is the antithesis. It's like the opposite.
It's also no salt, right? Salt's bad for you. Like there's everything's no salt, low salt, and they've got people thinking that salt, it'll harden your arteries. And
the thing is, the table salt is an abomination because they've stripped it of all its nutritional value. Like Morton's salt and all this other, it's all not good. No. But like the Celtic brand sea salt is good. It's just like what came out of the Dead Sea that I pulled out, when I went to the Dead Sea. It's oily and gray. But all these other ones are necessary, and we are deficient. This is why our cellular structure is breaking down, because we need these salts as an amplification for the structures of the cells to receive the electricity that they need in order to have radiating fields of auric fields of energy and stuff. We're so depleted, it makes us sick. I haven't been sick in 2 years.
Yeah, right. So you're on all. Have you got like all these different salts that you take? Is that how you take them as an actual salt, or is it? Yes, I have a supplement. It's called. Let me find it real quick. You can go online and find. I'm going to try to pull it up here. It's the 12 cell salts is what it's called. Okay.
And there's only one company that I've found. It was actually a person who was into health that developed this. It's called Bioplasma. As I did a search, it pulls up all of the astrotheology charts. So let me just share this and I'll show you. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
12 cell salts, Bioplasma. This is the brand right here. Combination of all 12 cell salts. Now, I just made a video in regards to this because this is very important to cleanse your body so that you can uptake the nutrients. They were recommending that this be diluted in a soluble solution of, very clean water, good water, basically, so that your body can uptake it immediately. Because with the amount of different kinds of problems inside the body, like swelling and mucus and all this stuff from the intestinal walls, and prevents the uptake of nutrients. And this has been something that was done here in the United States very severely. They control all the food supply, and it's hard to get anything of a benefit. And I'm not a doctor, and I don't give, medical advice.
No.
But I do take this. These are very tiny little capsule things. They're not in capsules. They're like, they melt in your mouth. So if you put some of these under your tongue, they recommend you take about 4. If you need more, go ahead, they say. You can take as many as you need, and it's not going to have an adverse reaction because it's just salts.
Salt, yeah.
But there are books that you can get based on this information. And it shows the same thing that I was just showing you about getting back to basics, learning about nature again, learning about the stars, the science of the stars, because the stars are not going to lie. That's what all of this is based on.
This is the thing about diet, right? Apart from the fact that, how long have we had diets out there, weight loss and get fit diets. So 50 years, and we're just getting fatter every year. So they clearly don't work. But it's all based on kilojoules and and not what you're eating. Like literally they'll say, look, just eat this processed crap that's only this many kilojoules and you'll lose weight. But I mean, what does that do to your body? I mean, because people go on diets and they tend to lose weight fairly quickly and then they just put it back on. And I think what's happening is their body's like getting sick, man. It's freaking out, like, you know, because they're shoving all this crap into it and restricting all the calorie, you know, all this stuff. But really, like it's like you say, we're
the liver.
Cell, right? We're like a battery. We need salts, we need acids, we need you know, that kind of stuff, not bloody calories and kilojoules.
And you can think of it like this: if we've been in the material consciousness of humanity, of all humanity, and all, you know, this period of time, we've been in the material. What are we doing? We're consuming the earth. The earth element represents the material plane.
Okay, yeah.
And if you want to be more spirit and you want your body to be lighter, you adapt through the 4 elements. This is why I say if you go into the 4 elements and the yin and yang principle, you will know absolutely everything that you need to do to either get your health back, get your life back together. If you're depressed, you will know that you need to use the fire principle of action to, you know, motivate you and make your life complete. It's all there in this basic teaching. And so with the earth element, if you adapt the fire principle more, which is active, which is spirit, which is move more, eat less. That's the only diet plan people need, and to eat natural from the earth. Yep. We're consuming man-made chemicals, and that is making everybody sick.
Mm. Yeah.
So, that basic?
They even put like our fruit and vegetables in plastic now, you know, just to, you know, and they wash them in God knows what and spray wax with God knows what on them. And
now, how deep have you gotten in? I know that you've covered, you know, Tartaria and all that. Do you know where the term Tartaria comes from?
Okay, well, obviously apart from the landmass, we're probably talking Tartarus, which is the land underneath. Is that where you're going?
Yes.
Yes.
So yes, Tartarus. And where, you remember that chart that I just showed you? Yep. Where do you think Tartarus began? In Taurus.
Taurus.
Why do these corporations have a bronze bull out front of their buildings? We have one at I don't know if it's the Hyatt in downtown Atlanta, you know, but they have them in New York and they have them in London.
Yeah, in Wall Street.
The bull, the stock market, the bull, you know, it's all like the symbolism, the Red Bull.
Red Bull
can, you know. Why is it red? Because it's the fire principle. The colors in alchemy tie into the elements. So Red Bull means fire. That's a fire principle. Air is yellow. Water is blue. Red shift, blue shift. You've heard of that before with the sine waves. Red shift, blue shift. Yeah, I mean, all of that. Duality. Hot, cold, all that. I mean, it's fascinating when you truly get into it. Deep dives, you know.
It is. So what's happened here? Like, because what it sounds like is that the rulers from the age of Taurus have kind of gone into the next age, but are they supposed to be doing that or not?
What they've done is thousands of years of wars and usurping lands for their purpose and making themselves ruler over everyone. That was not what the original beginning of the Golden Spring was not about usurping anyone. It was equal. It was male and female together. It was Gemini. Gemini's the principle of the duality of man and woman. And it comes together and it represents both principles, but it's the whole part of the Holy Trinity of the divine feminine meets the divine masculine to unify the Holy Spirit. So when we're talking about all of these events that have happened and with the melting of the buildings and all this stuff, we still haven't gotten to that part of how they did that. But what I found, there's this thing called the Grota Mandrinka. that happened over in England. That was a great flood that happened that wiped out an entire town where King Edward I had made it legal, basically, to be a pirate and to rob people. He was actually promoting piracy.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. I got to show you this because you're going to be like, what? This actually ties into what everyone else has been talking about. And I'm like, oh, my gosh. And this stuff just comes up by chance. Let me see if I can find the Grota Mandrinka. I don't know if I have it up here. I was going to go into the Kings of the Four Corners because that's actually quite interesting, and it ties into Mount Sumeru. But the Grota Mandrinka, yeah, I spelled it wrong. Here it is. Saint Marcellus's flood. There were actually two floods that happened in the 1600s. So this is Saint Marcellus's flood, or the Grota Mandrinka. Very interesting. This was Saxon, was an intense extratropical cyclone coinciding with a new moon, which swept across British Isles, the Netherlands, northern Germany, Denmark, around 16th of January 1362. There it is, 1362, causing at least 25,000 deaths. The storm tide is also called the Second Saint Marcellus flood because it peaked on January 16th, the feast day of Saint Marcellus. A previous first Saint Marcellus flood drowned 36,000 people along the coast of West Friesland and Groningen on the 16th of January 1219. Now, let me just give you a little bit of my thoughts on this. As we have been moving into the future and learning more about black magic and how you can actually obtain powers by doing celestial alignment, during celestial heavenly alignments, you can usurp or utilize or harness the energy of the stars and all of the heavenly planets at certain moments in time. And I know a lot of people don't really know that much about magic. I've been studying hermetics and doing all this stuff, so I know, where this is going. And I started thinking about here in the United States, they subsequently came in, claimed that Columbus discovered America, rewrote history, and moved all of the state capitals and the capital of the United States. Everything across the board was moved. And I was like, why would they move the state capitals? Well, if you're going based off of star alignments, let's say if we're talking about flat Earth and the stars are rotating around Polaris, the chandeliers are spinning around Polaris, and those stars never really change their longitude, latitude, and all that. They're always in the same place. That would mean that they traverse across a specific line, like a longitudinal line, a latitudinal line, that kind of thing. That would mean that by moving a state capital, you're going to alter the currents of the energy that you bring in. And especially since, like Georgia, here in Georgia, we have a gold-plated state capitol dome building.
Wow.
So that has to be it's crazy. So a lot of the old towns in my state have copper-lined buildings in the middle of the town square. And I'm like, look at this.
Wow.
So when you look at called the golden mean, or the golden age that once was, they were unlocking this idea of enlightenment, the divinity, because they were harnessing the use of the four elements based on light and sound frequencies with the shapes of what we call Tartarus. This is the study of space. Yeah.
So have you seen all the domes that they have, they'll have like a cross or a half moon or these different symbols, right? And of course, they tell us they're all just Christian Islam. But if you look around, there's some interesting symbols up there, and they seem to be planetary symbols. And then we have, like you said, gold covered domes, silver, bronze, all this kind of stuff, which again, gold is the sun. And so do you think that these buildings were being built so that in certain times, or epochs or whatever, they were basically harnessing more energy because they were lined up to the sun, right? They were built in the position where maybe on an equinox, they're in the right spot, so they're absorbing the most energy from the sun, which would go ahead with what you just said. To break that system, you would start moving all the buildings around you, so they're in the right spot.
I'll tell you what I did. Are you familiar with Mercator's map?
Of
the 1500s, the one that shows the flat Earth and the outer ring? Let me tell you what I did based on that map, and it shows where the equatorial line is that circles the whole map. I went and I pinpointed, because I learned some stuff about Israel. I said, okay, Israel is here on the map, but I had also heard that when the Rothschilds wanted to establish Israel, they actually marched around the world and wanted to establish it in 6 other locations, even Texas. And so I looked at Texas. I was like, okay, where is this place in Texas? But I looked at where Texas was. It was on the same, is it longitude or latitudinal line, the one that just goes around that circle? It was on the same line as Israel. And I was like, look at that. So did they march around the world looking for a place to establish this chosen one land for their purpose? Because I've learned a lot about Israel, and I'm not going to get into that, but I know. I was just thinking, I was like, okay. So now, you know what? My next endeavor is to go around and put pinpoints where they moved the state capitals in my country and the main capital for the United States. I'm going to go around and put, because it's like acupuncture points for the earth. To use energy.
Have you heard that people are saying they want to move the capital to Colorado, I think?
Yeah, I mean, that they're wanting to keep moving stuff. Now, I think we should start thinking about moving our capitals back to wherever they came from, because wherever they originally were is where some of the energy was obviously bringing in that was more beneficial. Now, getting off into this idea of how this world is nothing but one energetic, vibratory, chaotic energy if you're not living in balance with nature kind of experience. That's that thing. What I wanted to show, if I can find it, is a photo of the golden mean. The golden mean and the golden principle of Aristotle bring us back home into knowing exactly what. Are you familiar with Aristotle's work?
Yeah, a bit of it. Yeah.
I'm going to see if I can find it.
The golden ratio 1.61, I think, is the golden.
Yeah, it's like the golden ratio. And I'm going to do this virtue continuum thing too. With the sound frequencies and things, what they were working on during the golden age was the principality of the golden mean inside of themselves, like their personalities, perfecting the stone to a golden glistening sheen. That's the philosopher's stone, pollen personality kind of thing. Let me just see if I can find. Yes. So let me see if I get a Tartarian building I can show. Tartary.
There's actually a really good video out. It's actually by Disney. Just ignore that. Called Donald Duck in, what is it? Donald Duck's Magic Land, I think it's called. And it goes through all the golden mean and all the how the buildings are built in ratios and all that kind of stuff. It's really quite interesting.
That's what's important to know about all of it. Is that this idea of using these different structures, sound frequencies, and when you have this principle of the Holy Trinity it's bringing in the balance of things. You know, it's like if you looked down on a dome, it would be a circle.
Yes.
And that circle resonates with the harmonic frequencies, and it was benefiting everyone, even nature and all the animals and plants in the surrounding area. I had heard from, I think it was one of my subscribers, they actually destroyed the statues that were holding harps, because a harp will resonate at these frequencies. And I have a harp, and I would love to go into one of these ancient structures that can resonate from the stones and see what that sounds like.
Yeah, yeah. Have you seen the lady who records the silence cathedrals?
Well, I saw the woman who actually went into an ancient, is a really old chapel. It was a church, what they call a church, but I don't think they called them churches back in the day. And she started singing.
Oh, okay.
And oh my goodness, the resonance, it will bring you to tears because it's so beautiful, because it reverberates off of the stone and bounces all around and goes through your organs, you know, the organs, because they heal your organs. Everything was tied into a beautiful, like, working with nature reality.
Yeah.
Which is where we are not at right now. You know, we are nowhere near this, because this is the height of consciousness, to work in and unify with nature.
We can't replicate any of that stuff now.
Yeah, I know. Well, they don't want to, and I don't know that we even can, because I'll tell you what I think about a lot of this stuff. You have to have, of course, we had giants who were actually also good. As in all things, there's good and bad factions. In every culture around the world, you have good and bad people. You have light and dark, you know, you have that whole duality.
Yeah.
In even animals, plants, you know, everything. So I imagine there were giants, which is where we come back to the kings of the four corners, who are tall in stature, and they live around Mount Sumeru. Very interesting. And before I leave this whole Tartarian thing, I wanted to mention that in order to complete entirety, you need a male and a female voice. And that's where the A comes in, where you have both of them to create the entire length of a tone.
Yeah, right.
And can you imagine men and women in a circle in the power that potentially has? I mean, that's a lot.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because all religions, I was just thinking of choirs, they basically are all men.
But
and all religions, they separate the men and women pretty much, don't they? You know, we don't get men and women singing together. It's all like either women or men. Right.
It shows it right here. So with the yin and yang, and the yin is the dark. The yang is the male principle, while the yin is the female principle.
Yeah.
So yang is here, yin is here. This is all male dominated, and we're fading out of the male dominated rule of law, going into the female. The divine feminine principle is now coming back, because we have to heal the world from all the traumas. That's what I kind of do. There's been a lot of trauma from all the warring, all the fighting, all this, you know, stuff that's happened. So now this yin, divine yin, starts to appear right here. And as we traverse around, we're going to get into Libra, and Virgo. Virgo is going to be female-dominated society, but it's going to be healing, because the women of the world represent the Earth Mother in physical form as a human.
Yeah.
And that's where that whole thing. But yeah, we're in the winter of consciousness right now with the Iron Age. And then we're going to go into the fall or autumn, which is the bronze. And then we'll go into silver, which is summer, and then back around to the gold spring.
So we're in the middle of a change of age now. So do you see big changes happening soon? You know, obviously everyone's talking about, you know, solar flashes and
yes,
apocalypses and all this kind of stuff. What's your perspective there?
My perspective is this great awakening that's happening right now is going to drive the darkness back into its corner. Oh. It's already planted the seeds that it wanted to with the artificial intelligence and what is now transpiring over in Saudi Arabia and around the world pretty much with robots and rise of the machines. In Saudi Arabia, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Neom. It's spelled Neom. Oh. The city Neom.
Oh, it's a city.
So Saudi Arabia went over. They went over to. Let me see if I got it over here. Neom. It's an artificial intelligence city, and it is going. It says made to change. Yeah, it's going to be made to change. All right. This is going to be our next challenge at the end of the Age of Aquarius. Neom is going to be 100% operated by artificial intelligence. And it's, I believe it's located on the east coast or eastern side of Saudi Arabia. And they're actually going to start from Neom. They're going to build a city called the Line. Yeah. And the Line is going to basically divide, you know, the whole country in half. It's going to lead all the way to the west. And I'm like, it's all artificial intelligence. Is that sustainable?
They want everyone to live and never go further than 15 minutes from their house because they'll have everything they need in their artificial city.
If you study radionics, you realize what this actually represents. Radionics is this idea of, it's a science, it's an actual science that's been proven that every shape, color, and form radiates with a field of energy that we cannot see. It's based on sound and light. Okay. Even a 2D circle, if you draw a circle, it emits a 3D field of energy because we live in a holographic universe.
Yeah.
So when you get into that, you start going, so that's why it matters when they draw a pentagram on the floor with a circle around it. The circle is for protection, for the magician to stand in the center of the star and the circle. And the pentagram actually represents the 4 elements plus spirit at the top. And depending on how you use this, because I believe the top usually faces east, and then all the directions, you know, of the pentagram shoot out, represent the different elements. I mean, whatever your intent is determines whether it's black or white magic. And so knowing some of that and learning about Nikola Tesla, do you know about Nikola Tesla? And I know it seems like I'm going all over the place, but I'm going to bring it back into one central thought.
Yeah.
The Nikola Tesla came up with a purple plate. When he was working in the lab and stuff, he came up with a purple plate to help people sleep at night, to put under their pillow. And it actually worked because purple is the highest frequency color in this existence. It is one of the 7 rays of the chakras. It is the crown chakra. And, you know, the sine waves for purple are very short and very close together. And radiating with that field of energy on the opposite end of the spectrum is red. And red has long and slow waves. Yeah. It's a lower frequency. Well, getting back to the buildings and all of this stuff, all these shapes. When you know about radionics and the fields of energy, and you look around at all of the shapes, you go, oh my gosh, I'm living in a chaos frequency of energy that is very septic for life, especially black and cube shaped, because cube represents time and space, which is Earth and Saturn combined, overlaid. That's time and space. Earth is space and Saturn is time. Well, that septic energy is what they've been trying to use to keep us from ascending to the next levels of consciousness and awareness and, spirituality. Because Tartarus is on Earth right now. They brought hell on Earth from summoning. And there's another channel that goes into this. And I was like, I knew it from all of my research with trafficking, doing all this stuff with people, whatever they're doing underground. I said, you know what? What is that? And it led me down this trail of learning about Saturn energy. So I bought a book called The Cult of the Black Cube, and I can send you the PDF because I found it online. And you can learn about what this energy of Saturn represents. And when you do this, you go, oh my, they have been using Saturn's energy for dark purposes, basically, for black magic. And obtaining power, doing these rituals, doing all this stuff. If you watch, there's a channel, and oh my gosh, it is like my favorite channel as far as learning about what happened in the Middle East thousands of years ago. It's called Mysterious Middle East, and it is a wake-up call because it will teach you about what we don't really know about the Middle East and how they used to summon the jinn, which are the genies, to come into our world and give them secrets, to tell them secrets on how to find certain things in our world.
Wow.
And
sounds
a lot of information.
And what they were all up to as well in the 1600s, summoning their entities in to get information and stuff. I mean, okay, so okay.
Yes.
So I mean, I think we all sort of are onto the fact that that evil's been summoned into this world, right? And that's what's going on. There's black magic going on. There's dark magic.
Oh yeah. Like
you said, they're using all the frequencies and things. That's messing everything up. So I guess the question is, who are they? What are your thoughts on that?
That's what we're still trying to so we know that these people who are in positions of power somehow tied to whomever the hidden hand is, so to speak. And in my research, I've learned about the Venetian families. The Phoenician families is basically what they're talking about, and that's why we speak phonetics. Hooked on phonics and all this stuff is because it's Babylon. It's Babel language. They usurped the fire language. The whole fire, that written fire language is the language of spirit. And there's information out there, the etymology. If people ever take the time to look up the etymology of Hebrew, Jew, Jerusalem, because it's Jerusalem, it will be an eye-opening experience. I'm not going to go there for people because I don't want to be, attacked, but it's in the etymology. And Egypt, GYP means swindler. Egypt. So you go, what?
Egypt,
and if you go up and look up the yes, the etymology is there in our face. And Isis, Ra, El, which is Israel. Isis is the moon, Ra is the sun, and El is Saturn. The trifecta, the light and dark aspect with the moon goddess. So they're working with astrotheology is basically what they're telling people. And you just go into etymology of words and learn some of this stuff. It's like you'll go, oh my gosh, I know where that word comes from, and wow, so this is what they're actually saying we are, and this is what they are, and wow, this is really ugly. Some of the terms out here, like harm, like harmony. I've really done a number.
Hello, right? Hell, low. Like all these words we're starting.
Yes, hell, oh, hell.
Good
hell
morning.
is low.
Good morning.
Morning, yes. We're morning. I usually will say hi, because hi, hi. Yep. I want to be up high with the light,
Exactly, yeah. So
yeah, we have to think about all this. Right?
Spelling, isn't it?
Spelling, yeah, it's casting spells at each other by writing. It's writing, not that W just confuses the mind to think, oh no, it doesn't. It means to write. No.
Yeah.
We're creating rituals with our spelling.
Indeed.
All of that stuff. Hollywood, the magic wand to capture your mind and cast the characters. Yeah, they're putting it out there.
Yeah, isn't it? Even grammar and
that's all.
Requires a spell book and grammar. That's so everything. I even looked up education, and when you look into the etymology, education means something like to follow the path of the goat. Like, it's really like, what?
They call children kids, like goats.
Exactly, baby goats. Yeah. I'm very aware of using that word now. I'm always like children, child.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it's about us coming into our consciousness and awareness of it and going, I'm not going to use that word anymore. What can I use?
And so does the goat come from that's Capricorn, right? That's the age after Taurus, is that right?
Yeah, it's part of Capricorn. Yeah, well, no. So that's Aries that you're talking about after Taurus. But Capricorn comes after Aquarius.
Oh.
And so, that whole idea of Baphomet, I'm sure it has something to do quite possibly with Capricorn, or either Pan, the goat, with the flute that would dance around and lead the children and do all this crazy stuff. I mean, it's all about debauchery with these people. So,
yeah, I was gonna say, it's like that. William Shakespeare, or probably Francis Bacon, said, "Nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so." Right. So it's not like this is all. They're just using it for bad. Like they're using the bad energies out of things, and that, where it doesn't mean that. Because this is a thing. Another thought that's coming up, and it's been sort of promulgated for a couple of decades, really, is that this is a prison planet, right? And we're all stuck here, and we're basically, just the slaves of these evil people, and it's an evil place. But I see it more as it's not evil. It just is, right? But evil has taken over at this point. It's clearly in the percent, more percentage of evil going on, but. Again, we get to choose to change that or not. We get to choose to agree and live that life, or to change things. And I think that's where we are right now.
Yeah. I mean, right now, we're stepping into our power, our divinity. People are waking up to their own true divinity by connecting through meditation and realizing that they are something more. When you go within, instead of constantly going out here into the physical realm, which is 3D, if you go inside, and you start learning who you are and being very honest with yourself, and being then very honest with others of who you are and who you wish to be. If you're a virtuous soul, you are then on the path of polishing your personality and realizing that you have the power. All the power rests within your imagination and your consciousness, your awareness of how to manifest in this reality. And it's very, very simple. Your emotions plus your emotions are basically intentions, so your intentions, emotions plus your thoughts will create your reality. When you feel it inside you, a desire, or wherever your compass is leading you, you will achieve whatever that goal is.
Yeah.
But as I sit here right now, if and I can just show you a very simple way to manifest something, is by sitting here. And I taught the most mundane people that didn't know anything about spirituality. I said, look, take your hands and make sure it's quiet. Make sure there's no distractions, but just take your hands and feel the energy inside your hands. Feel the tingling sensation, the blood flowing, all this energy that's in your hands. Then, if you can remember what it feels like to feel love, joy, gratitude, all these higher sensations that we sensate throughout our life, you know, certainly somebody's felt it at least once in their life. If you can raise your energy to that level, I usually inhale, and when I do, it brings it in, and then all of a sudden it's like my whole body starts tingling, because I can do this very easily because I've been practicing it so much. So if you need help in any aspect of your life, you feel that energy, bring it up your arms into your heart chakra, feeling the love, and then inhale and ask for help. As soon as you feel your energy rise, you know, to a higher point in your body, that level of joy, you just ask for help. And the next thing you know, the next day or a week, depends on how well you're connected to your spirit. This happens for me. I haven't worked a regular job in 2 years, since 2020. I was working for Hollywood, you know, for 11 years. And in 2020, when they shut it down, you know that they are still requiring mandates and vaccines, shots, all this stuff. They're still requiring all this stuff to this day. I know people in the industry. And I said, you know what? I'm just giving up. I'm just going to not ever think that I'm ever going back, because I won't comply. What do? I manifest.
Manifest instead.
And that, it works. But I've taken the plunge, which is very hard to do, about losing the fear of losing all your material possessions. When you make it in your mind, when you go, I don't care. If I lose everything, I'm ready. You know, and then all of a sudden nothing happens in that regard, and you don't have a full-time job, and you're like, okay, how am I doing this? It's like magic.
It is.
Because it is. It's manifestation of the soul and the spirit realm down into the physical plane.
Awesome.
That's why I say, you know.
And there's so many people out there in that position at the moment, like they don't want to go back to the system, but they're not sure where they're supposed to be going, what they're supposed to be doing. So there you go, guys. There's a technique. Ask for help, right? Ask for inspiration. And
yeah, it's all about allowing and also shedding the fear.
Yeah, well, this is it. It's,
you know, the
possessions possess us, right? And it's like, if you're just, you know, if you lose everything and that destroys you, well, it means who are you? You were just someone who was possessed by possessions. But if you lose everything, oh, that doesn't matter, you know, I can get it back, or I can do whatever, then that's because you're you and you understand what's going on here. So I think that's another big shift is, you know, all these, and they just hammered it into us, isn't it? You've got to get a job, because then you've got to get a mortgage, and you've got to get car payments, and you've got all your bills, and you've got to keep working. And if you don't, everything will fall apart and everyone will starve and die. But that's not what we see. I mean, I'm the same. I got, you know, sacked when all this craziness, we all got retrenched when it happened, and I haven't had a job in, you know, going on 3 years, and I never intend to ever have a job again. It's just not going to happen. I'm just things, right? So
it's a great resignation.
Yeah, it's the great.
We're in the great resignation, the great awakening.
Yeah.
I want to cheer people on, you know. People were telling me, you know, just in my area, they're like, oh my gosh, you know, people don't want to work. They're so lazy. I'm like, are you kidding me? Really? That's your perspective. What about this perspective? What about we've been lied to for so long, and people don't get paid enough money to actually have a living wage, and people have been slaves for so long to this whole dollar, this whole scheme, this monopoly of power that's all around us. I'm like, I encourage people to take the plunge and go do whatever it is that they feel guided to do, instead of, you know, working a dead-end job where you're not getting any kind of recognition and you're barely getting by,
Well,
follow your spirit, because that's what's calling us.
it's craziness. We know where this all leads. Like how many millionaire retirees do we know? You know, and they keep putting it out there. Oh yeah, but you can retire. But we know people retire and they're broke and they can't do anything, and they're broken physically and spiritually and mentally, and the whole journey. It's a struggle. I mean, look at prices at the moment. You know, even if you do get on top, they can just, you know, mess with the economy, put prices of petrol up. They can, you know, devalue the dollar, so it's all for nothing in the end. And it's because
it's their game.
Yeah, and we haven't taken control of our own lives. That's it. We're being controlled. That's why. That's the whole gig.
Well, here's the flip side to that.
Mm-hmm.
Who has all the real power?
We
do. We got us into this position by voting with our dollars.
Yeah.
We go to the big corporate box entities and buy the things that we want because it's material world. We have been shunning the little people.
Yes.
We need to now rethink that whole dynamic and say, no, you know what? The little people is what we need to support. So boycott actually works, you know, boycott the big box thing, because BlackRock and Vanguard own it all. When we think that we have, like we have Home Depot and Lowe's, they're owned by the same BlackRock Inc. You have Apple computers and you have the Microsoft computers. They're owned by BlackRock Inc. You know, all these things, you think you got duality, you know, like, oh, I've got a choice. No, you don't.
No.
We have Walmart and Target, red shift, blue shift. But you know what? They're both owned by the same company.
Yeah.
So,
you know, like the same in politics, everything, but there's no choice because, like I said, it's all owned. And they throw up, don't they? They go, oh, no, you know, this person owns this company and, you know, Elon Musk owns Tesla and this person owns this, but none of them own companies. They don't. It's all, what is it? It's up near 90% now of, I think, businesses and real estate's getting pretty high too, is owned by BlackRock, which is an AI algorithm. It's not even a person. It's AI. That's crazy.
Yeah, because they want our entire world to be lost and captured by the Borg.
Yeah,
you know, that
the black cube
idea of Google Cloud, because they know that they cannot stop the Great Awakening. So what are they doing? They're going to try to capture our consciousness, upload it to the cloud. Then we'll have this choice pretty soon, because they already have these. Have you seen the ectolife pods?
I have.
The little birthing pods.
Yes.
Yeah, that they've proposed. That means that they've already been doing it. You know, that whole Dolly the sheep that they cloned, supposedly, they had already been working with that stuff, probably hundreds of years.
Well, I was going to say, we can go back to the, you know, the infantoriums and the baby incubators in the 1880s. They were doing it then. They had baby farms.
Exactly.
You know?
Yes. I mean, these entities, whatever they are sick. Whether they're dark elves or giants or, you know, Fomorians. That was another thing that came out recently too. More people talking about the Fomorians, the giants that were like the usurpers. They considered them pirates. And when you look up the etymology of Fomorian, it tells you exactly what they were. They, you know, I don't know why they call them pirates. I guess just because they went and started attacking towns and stuff. But it made me think too about the Vikings.
Peter, isn't it?
Because they called them the horned giants.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, it was like horned giants.
Okay, yeah. That's a good point.
I mean, I don't know. I just found that today about the Fomorian.
Okay.
But there's a lot that's being uncovered. So there's an actual elf language. Have you found it yet? Did you realize what that was? It's called Elfdalian.
Elfdalian.
And there's actually a spoken. Yeah, let me show. I had the information up so that I could go over that. Elfdalian. And this is it here. It's actually still spoken by about 3,000 people, they say. It's Northern Germanic language spoken by up to about 3,000 people.
Wow.
And if you listen on, they have a sample on YouTube of someone speaking Elfdalian. It's almost like Gaelic.
Okay.
So it's like a combination between German and Celtic and, you know, that kind of thing. So I was like, wow, look at that. They actually have the Elven language. So Sweden's lost forest language, Elfdalian, is used by about 2,500 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Do you know what it also, it goes back into the runes.
Okay.
Like, you're familiar with the runes, the rune codes and stuff?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that goes back to Olam, the language of the trees. So really it starts to kind of get into that whole, oh, wow, these are elves or druids. The druids were probably elves. I don't know. This is all just.
And then the Romans came across and just cut down all the trees, didn't they? That was literally what they were just going around, just destroying all the forests. It's very interesting.
The trees are the connection to the heavenly realms and the earth plane.
Yeah, the antennas.
That's the problem. They tell us in Lord of the Rings, they have their roots in the sky. And they hold the balance between the four elements, between the etheric plane and our world. And when we destroy them, we're basically destroying ourselves.
Man, they've done,
and that's what's happening all around.
Yeah, they've done a number.
Yeah.
We got to give them that they do plan well. That they're good at planning and carrying out their bloody plans. But it only works when we comply, like we've been saying. It's only because we've, you know, they shove us through 12 years of schooling and, you know, smash us with, you know, advertising and entertainment and all this entertainment, right, to enter the taint of mind. Yes. You know, all this stuff. Yeah, so
this stuff. But if we just get back to heart center and go, you know what, we need to start really acknowledging Mother Earth and nature and how she gives us life. She grants us our life. She gives us a place to experience, you know, all these different earthly things that happen around us. You know, the different emotional states. And a physical, what we call physical being.
Yeah.
And I did a presentation about all of this and how, if you think of it this way, and I just want to show you that Kings of the Four Corners thing because it is interesting. Think of it this way. Are you familiar with the chakras and the association with the body?
Yes.
You know, or chakras, whatever. It's like, you know, ketchup, whatever. So the red, yellow, and orange, those three chakras that are the lower chakras, those can be found in Earth through the lava and the fiery principle of the lava, and that is orange, yellow, and red, right? The fiery principle of the Earth inside the Earth.
Yeah.
Then the heart chakra is green. And where are we? We're in the heart,
nature,
which is Earth, the Earth, and the H for heart is at the end of the word.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's actually, Earth is actually heart.
Yeah.
And the green is everywhere. So what, you know, nature is resonating at a love frequency, but people don't see it because the color of love is green.
And they've told us
that's why it's the heart chakra.
And they've told us it's pink. Right, all these little hearts are always.
No, you know. Oh, I'm going to share something about that. Let me just continue quickly with this whole notion of the 7 rays or the 7 chakra colors. So blue is the throat. Where do we see blue? We see blue in the sky. That's where the rain comes down. The waters come into the body of Earth and go down into the Earth material plane. Well, then you have the crown chakra, which is the highest color, you know, the third eye in the crown. They're considered the heavenly realms where all the stars are and where the lights are coming from. You know, all of those lights, the twinkling lights of the stars, the sun, That's the heavenly realm of the crown chakra that's shining on us with the light from Asgard or whatever it is with the rainbow bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's all that. It's all ties into, wow, if you look out here, the macro to the micro, and how it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Earth is heart. It's green heart chakra. It's all there. It's right in front of us, but we've never been taught how to see it that way.
No, we're taught.
But getting back to what you were saying about like Valentine's Day, that symbol that we use as a heart for Valentine's Day is an alchemical symbol. And it's kind of hard to find. It was actually, I guess, used in previous alchemy.
Opposing sides, like for positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is actually the symbol for vitriol, which is a bitterly abusive feeling.
Wow.
That's what Valentine's Day represents.
Right.
And the red color represents lust and desire, the lowest chakra.
Wow. Gonna have to look into the word card. Everyone gives each other's cards, but then I was thinking, like, what happens in soccer? You get when you get carded, it's something bad, isn't it? So I wonder what card means. Cardinal. Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. Cardinal directions.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm telling you, like all of this other stuff from the past, you know, etymology, alchemy, the 4 elements, yin and yang, all this stuff is like, if we just had those basic things being taught in schools today, that would lay the groundwork for people to just go, launch up and go, okay, I know the answer to that. You got a problem? Okay, I know the solution. Guess what? So when we're even talking about these cell phone towers, after studying the 4 elements, I looked at the cell phone towers and went, oh my gosh, they're amplifying the fire principle. You know, in Russia, they studied pyramids and different shapes with pyramids, the angles and the substances that they used. They found that fiberglass at 144 feet high was one of the strongest pyramids that you could create. And so when you look at a cell phone tower, look at how steep they are.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right.
And because of the alchemy of the elements ties into the planets, you have the moon, which is silver. It's tied to the metal silver.
Yeah.
Then you have Venus, which is copper, and, you know, tied to the metal copper. And those are the 2 feminine planets that relate to the 2 feminine qualities or yin principle of metals. The rest of the metals are part of the fire principle. And so when you look out here and they're making steel, that's a fire principle. It amplifies proton energy.
Yeah, you just got to look at family.
So the cell phone tower, the cell phone tower themselves, being that it's a pyramid, fire in the middle, pyramid, is amplifying fire principle. Then the triangles on the sides are part of the fire principle because they're made in steel and it's a triangle shape. Then they're emitting those little microwaves.
Wow.
And they're amplifying fire by using the geoengineering of the heavy metal particulates, the aluminum, barium, strontium, and, you know, all these different heavy metals. They're spraying it across the sky in order to use their different frequency machines to enhance the electrical charge in the air. But that's raining fire on us right now.
Yeah, to keep us in
the fire is destroying. It's blanketing the yin principle, which is the earth, and the trees are dying because the soil biology is dying. Yeah. So if we learn about copper and how we can actually rotate copper, like copper wires around the trees clockwise, and attach it to a copper grounding rod into the ground, you can actually amplify the yin principle for any plants or trees that are starting to suffer.
Nice.
If you go out in nature, you'll see that the plants are suffering by fungus because that natural biology that keeps them in balance is dying.
Yeah, they're also burning
in the soil. It's not what it used to be.
A lot of them are burning from within, like burning out from the core. There's some weird stuff going on.
Yes. Yeah, because they're amplifying the fire principle on us. You know, I encourage everyone to go look at the four elements of alchemy.
Yeah.
And the yin yang principle, because it holds all the answers that we need to help our world and ourselves.
I agree.
Like it ties into health, wellness, nature,
everything. And that's the thing, everything's one, isn't it? It's fractal, but I believe it's all these separate parts and all this, but it's really just all one. And self-education is the way forward.
Yes. Autodidactic.
Educate yourself and then re-educate yourself.
I didn't get all this knowledge I didn't get all this information from going to school, that's for sure. Right. I had my own school.
It's like, I was like, use from school.
Educate myself.
I don't use anything from school.
No, it's all a bunch of nonsense.
It's just ridiculous. And that's the main thing, is we've just got to realize it's ridiculous and not get, not have our ego jump in and go, well, but it must be right. I couldn't have made a wrong decision. Or no, we've all been lied to. We all fell for it. So now the only thing we can make it better.
Absolutely. And we just need to look to each other as it's part of us. Yep. You are me in another form. If we are all from the one source that is a sound frequency that emits light from the sound, then, as we're attacking someone else, we're attacking ourselves.
Exactly.
And I was finding out this the hard way, getting angry in traffic at someone because they cut you off or whatever. It would backlash at me because I was manifesting. So it would come in threes too. And it would usually, because your hands are like battery cables. So if you're in traffic and you're yelling at someone, you're getting angry and you're getting all that energy, pinned up inside of you, and you got your two battery cables attached to the steering wheel, guess what happens? You break your car. At least that was what happened for me. Anytime that I would get mad in traffic, and then it was like, oh, something would break. And I'm like, oh, wait. Am I doing something here? Because it would always come in threes. That's what got me noticing. I'm like, okay, maybe I need to dial that back down. So now I practice hermetics while I'm driving.
yeah, man.
Have you done the hermetics?
I haven't been into hermetics. No, there's so much to learn, isn't there?
Oh, I know. Well, this is just meditating on the four elements.
Yeah, hermetics and all. Yeah.
You breathe. Yeah, you breathe in the prana. So as you're doing this, you're imagining. You engage your imagination with the physical sensation of breathing in the four elements. So you start with one element and you breathe in like air. Okay, I'm going to imagine I'm breathing in the air principle and it's filling up a balloon. That is my lungs, And as you breathe in, you go about 7 times. And you inhale that. And as you inhale this air principle, you start to imagine yourself feeling lighter as air, become the air. Everything around you starts to that whole principle of working in that kind of concept. And then you have to exhale it back out, because in Franz Barden's initiation into hermetics, he talks about how that can create great discomfort if you do not get it out of your body. But as you start working with these, inhalation and exhalation of each of the four elements, you will actually start to balance your body. And, you become resistant to diseases. You become resistant to illnesses and things of that nature, because you're starting to harmonize with nature and the natural laws that actually are employed around us. Wow. Very good stuff, actually. It's very benign. So, and it just depends on how far you want to take it.
Definitely.
Because it goes deep.
It does. You can, exactly. But I mean, it's the great work, right? The great work should be ourselves, not working for someone else at a job.
Yes.
We are the great work. So
that's Aristotle. like Aristotle's golden mean.
Yeah.
So I'll just show you real quick, because I know we've been on here for a while. But this idea of the golden mean, this is pretty important, and especially just getting back to basic virtues. We have lost the virtual man, the virtuous man. You know, this whole notion of being virtuous and bringing the integrity back into humanity and into the world. So these are the different things. As you can see, this is based on Aristotle's teachings and the excess and the deficit. So again, this is going to be the yin and yang principle.
Yeah.
But the golden mean is right in the middle. Balance is everything.
The middle path.
Bringing back integrity for respect, you know, respecting each other, respecting people where they are in their awakening, being, you know, all the virtues.
That's a good chart.
Not just these.
That's literally like a chart of what's happening, you know, in politically at the moment, right? With what people are doing on each side, like
yeah, this is all of it. See? Because it's too much yang.
Too much excess or too much.
This excess would be the yang side of this whole virtue continuum, and this would be the yin, lazy, you know, sanguine, just laying around, selfish. You're selfish. You're disregarding. You're kind of disengaging. Engaging. This is action, and this is non-action. Basically, this is like, I'm going to just do this, and I'm corrupt. I'm just going to do, you know, these dark things, dark acts, because darkness is yin. It doesn't mean that women are darkness. It just means it's the opposite of yang, which is the action, the active principle.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool.
Yeah, so that's that, isn't it?
I like that.
Yeah, but this also, you know, yeah, I can send it to you if you want. It's just a JPEG image I have. We just need to focus. Focus on these. You know, be better. This is what it means to be enlightened.
I think that's another big thing, is it's not that hard, you know,
enlightened.
Out there selling courses and, you know, my 10-step plan and my 20-step plan, and just do this, and making it all hard and convoluted. And the reason is because they want to sell it to you, right? If someone gets the answer, you can't steal their work. You have to add stuff to it before you can sell it as yours, right? So we've just ended up with all this crap that's full of all this nothingness. It doesn't work. So it's just simple. Just get back to simplicity, I think. You know, it's like, if you don't go within, you'll go without.
Exactly. Just looking at these principles of what we've been talking about, just to kind of give somebody the idea of what we're talking about with yin and yang. I have all these great charts because I've done so much research, just trying to figure out what things are. So you have the feminine earth and water. Then you have the masculine fire and air. And as you can see, these are all the different principles that are represented from each one.
Nice.
And you can find the balance in the middle. And look at what this is. It's the Coptic cross.
Yeah.
The golden mean, the golden spring. They say Mount Sumeru is in the middle. Yep. And that's where the 4 islands are, where it's perpetual spring.
Nice.
Yeah. I wish I could.
Because that was called Rufus Nigra, literally the Black Rock. Yes.
And it's the Iron Mountain that makes our compasses point what we say is north. It's not north, it's the center.
It's the center. Exactly. There's no south.
Yeah.
Wow, cool. All right. Really so you've been going a little while. So where can people find you if they want to learn more about all of this, Ellen?
Well, I have my channel is Era, E-R-A, of my ways, because I'm Aquarius and I represent the age that we're going into. And I'm actually starting to feel more at home now that people are waking up, because I felt like I was out in left field from, everyone in all my life, because I was just different.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't really fit in.
It's like we were born, we had to have a certain level of understanding. So you know, we had to be this age, so we had to go through all that crap growing up in the wrong age, and now we're like suddenly like, finally it starts to make a bit of sense. I'm not
I know, like now I know why I was born. It took me a while. You know what was fascinating though, being around age 14 or 15, being, you know, devoid of any kind of conscience pretty much, I had an epiphany, like a moment in time where I said something just stopped me dead in my tracks, because a thought came over me and it said I was going to be a part of something big on the horizon of my life, but it wasn't anywhere near where I was at the time. And I was like, that's a weird feeling, you know, weird thought. I'm like, okay. And here I am, you know, and I'm like, wait a minute, who was talking to me back then? Because that was weird.
Yeah, man.
My higher self, someone else. I don't know.
There's more than just us here.
But yeah.
Connections. All right, so Erin, website at the moment, or no?
Yeah, I do. I have my website is wellenbe.com, and so it's WELLENBE, wellenbe.com.
Cool.
Quickly.
Yeah.
This is my website, Be Well at Wellenbe, and I do hypnosis. I actually took Dolores Cannon's QHHT hypnosis, so I do help people connect to their higher selves, and also to do past life regression therapy to release all the emotional traumas and things that are stored in our cells. I do that kind of stuff, and I do offer some things online, so people can just get in touch with me through my website, or you know, you can contact me through my channel, Era of My Ways. I get into all kinds of different topics.
Nice.
So that's that.
Well, there you go. Yeah, we've done 2 hours. I feel like we could keep going though, so we might have to get you back for another chat in the future.
Oh, I know, right?
Always up, isn't it? So,
it's been so good though, connecting finally again. I know it took a little while.
This one, 2 months, I think.
I hope you're feeling better.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, we're getting energy went a bit strange there for a bit, and oh God, it was very weird. But no, I'm feeling better. 2023 is here. It's time to run out and change the world. Get rid of these parasites.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome.
Yep, we're going to, because we're here, and
yeah, we're bad. Yeah.
Making it happen.
We're here for a reason. We're the ones we've been waiting for, as they say.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much, Cambell, for having me back on. And
my pleasure.
Maybe not so long next time, you know. We just pick up, you know. Well, thank you so much.
Have a good day. I'll talk to you soon.